All right, guys, asset-based loans. Loans that are based off asset, not income or credit. Now, some people will say, well, I've called a hard money lender. They asked me what my credit score is. Yes, we want to know what your credit score is. We're going to do a soft pull credit pull. Why? Because we have to know who we're working with. We're a lending institution. We have to know. We have to know what criteria and how to underwrite the file. Income. Now, there's a difference between non-income verification and having liquidity. Liquidity is what gets you through the hard time of carrying cost of that property. And I don't mean a hard time like, my mom died and my sisters, ran off with the cousin or something like that. I mean the actual hard time of when you're in this property and you've got to keep the lights on. You've got to advance the repairs because in a hard money loan, we lend off of a future value. So any hard money lender is going to require you to do 30 to 40% of completing the repairs up front before they will allow the first reimbursement. Because remember, we lend off of a future value, not the as-is value. So you've got to add value to the property before we release funds. And the only way you can do that is to have liquidity. Used to purchase real estate for the purpose of rehabbing, selling for a profit, or holding for rental. Self-explanatory. You're either going to, there's only two ways that you are going to make money off a property. You sell it or hold it long term. If you ask me, I think everybody in this room should be using strategy number 2, which is rental. Holding it for rental income. Short-term money that can close quick. We can typically close in about 7 to 10 business days, typically, okay? And this is when you use it, when you're single family, fix and flip, buy and hold, short-term rentals, small balance commercial. This is all the things that we can do. I know some of y'all are looking at new construction up there. Before you start hitting the panic button, say, oh, I found somebody that does new construction. I found somebody that does new construction. There is a typical way that we do new construction, and you have to have experience. At least 5 deals under your belt before we will even start underwriting. And you're probably saying, well, how do I get 5 deals under my belt? Well, you got to team up with a guy that's literally has the experience, and y'all form an LLC together, and y'all do it together, and get those 5 deals under your belt, and now you have the experience. Then you can branch off and go do it yourself. You got to get creative on how to make things happen in this industry. Thinking outside the box, and that is where jet lending comes into play. We do have other ways if you have experience doing larger rehabs that we can do new construction. But again, you've got my phone number. We could talk about specifics on that one-on-one. What is the process? First and foremost, establish a relationship with the loan officer. Well, you're doing that tonight. You're talking to the director. So I guarantee you I will make sure you get taken care of. You can go on Google and you can read every single one of our reviews. I don't think that there's a bad one out there. Over 182, and I think there's a lot of them that mention my team and me specifically. So, do your research. So typically you call us, you'll tell, hey, Rob, I've got this property I want you to look at. I want you to run the numbers on it. Well, what we'll do is send you a link, ask you to enter it into our system. That automatically triggers the whole company to go to work, to do an evaluation. We do an internal, I guess you'd say, basically call it probably closest thing to a BPO that you can get to. If you don't know what a BPO is, it's broker's price opinion, right? Where you call a real estate broker and say, hey, what do you think this property should list for, should sell for? And you can pay for those through a broker, and they're usually about $200 or $300. Sometimes cheaper, sometimes more. It's cheaper than getting an appraisal. So anyways, at the end of the day, we do that for free for every one of our clients. I evaluate up to 200 deals a month. This month, I think we've hit about 125 with 7 days left. So with 7 days left, we'll probably hit another 45 to 50 loans that we will evaluate. We close anywhere from 20 to 30 of those. So there's a lot of deals out there that hit our desk, but that doesn't mean that there's a lot of deals out there that make sense. So if I'm turning down, let's say I look at 150 and I'm turning down 120 of them, what does that tell you? That means that there are 120 bad investments out there, or investments that somebody needs to just pay cash for. And there's investors out there that have plenty of money that are willing to just pay cash for the property, let it appreciate, and then sell it off in a few years. And that's a great strategy. But not every investor can do that. That's why you come to a hard money lender. We do full property market analysis using real-time data off the MLS. We underwrite and review it within 24 to 48 hours. You will have a term sheet in your back pocket that you can review and say, these are actual numbers that Jet Lending's comfortable, a hard money lender's comfortable, and take it and present an argument to whoever your buyer is, whoever your seller is, and say, these numbers are what a hard money lender will lend on it. Why would I pay more if this is what they're comfortable lending? And you should pay attention to that, seriously. Not every deal is going to be structured to where you're going to benefit. It's more or less, it's going to benefit the seller. That's where your sales negotiation comes into play. That's where you're walking through the house, teaching yourself, doing education on how to walk a house, what to pay attention to when you walk through a house, having a clipboard there and writing things down. It doesn't matter what you're writing down. They don't know. Going back to your vehicle, adding your budget up, coming back down, and having a stern conversation or a serious conversation about the numbers. But you've already done your homework prior to going to walk the house, correct? Especially if you're marketing for yourself and not relying on a wholesaler to send you deals. And you're papering neighborhoods and marketing pre-foreclosures and other things that we can talk about how to generate leads. I could talk for hours on that, but that's a total different subject. But at the end of the day, how are you getting those leads? Are you waiting on wholesalers, or are you actually papering neighborhoods, using skip tracing methods, driving for dollars, trying to find these properties? I'm sure everybody in here probably has a 9-to-5, and if they don't, they're probably a full-time investor. Full-time investors know how to find properties, so you need to be picking their brains, doing your own research and actually getting involved. That's how you learn. More people you talk to, how do you find leads? What do you do? I've seen investors write out handwritten letters, make copies of it to where it looks like it's a handwritten letter going straight to the house, and they'll paper a whole zip code. Hey, I'm interested in buying your house. Write out a paragraph, and just send it out, and send out mailers, send out flyers. Anyways, again, we could talk hours and hours on how to market for properties. What is a hard money lender going to look at? The asset itself. As I say, free market analysis. The after repair value. What will the property sell for? Like, what will it realistically sell for? And I don't mean you got two comps at $200,000, and that's the highest of the market, but every one of the other mediums are 180 to 170. Yes, can you get it to that 200 mark? No, but you got 10 comps at 180, and you got 2 comps at like 120. Where's your real estate data? It's probably 180, maybe 190 in that area, because more of your comps are in this area, and that's what you're competing with. And you have to pay attention to what you're competing with. You got to go in and you got to look at the pictures. Look at what was done to the property. Look at the finishes, because you can pay attention to the data real easily. When you pull comps on any address and pull the neighborhood or whatever you do, You're going to have some comps that are way down, 70, 60, 50, 60, 70. Then you're going to have some that are like 110, 120. And we're talking about all within the same square footage. And then you're going to have some that are going to be real high. And those are going to be your ARV ones. And you'll be able to pick them up very quickly, especially in Houston. The ARV ones are going to be your high sales, the ones that were rehabbed. And you got to pay attention to what the competition is doing and not go for the highest number. Yes, that's achievable, but the median, and then back into your numbers. And we'll get into that here in a minute. We look at repairs. Look, guys, there's 100 calls I take in a week, maybe more. And that's a realistic number. I can show you on my phone, and it'll probably drive you all crazy. My wife, literally, she has to tell me, enough's enough. You got to spend time with the kids. And I got 3 beautiful daughters, and they'll be climbing on my back, and I'm still on the phone. She's like, put the phone down. It's time for you to play with the kids. And I'm like, okay, I got to go. Mama's talking. So at the end of the day, you got to pay attention to that. But get back on track. Repairs. When you go and walk a property, don't just walk it. Take pictures. It legitimizes you as an investor. Take pictures of the damage. Take pictures of all the appliances. Take pictures of the electrical box, your AC units, inside of the attic. Take pictures underneath the roof. Why would you take pictures of underneath the roof? I'm going to give you one even better. Huh? Water stains. Yeah, that's a good reason. Anybody ever heard of cedar shake roofs? You know what I'm talking about? You can easily identify it. We see this a lot of times in Houston and in surrounding areas. They didn't take the time to take the cedar shake roofs off. All they did is put a composite roof over the top of it. That is a huge no-no. Don't do it. It's going to look crappy. And you can identify it by going and looking in the attic and looking at the roof from underneath. Okay? Just some tips as we go. Reserves, we already talked about that. You got to have money to get through a rehab. You've got to have cash. Liquidity, not 401k. I know everybody's like, oh, I got all this money in my 401k. When truth comes to serve and you get in trouble, are you going to touch that 401k and take the tax hit? He's already said it. No, you're not. We know that. We do business. We have 401ks. We're not going to touch ours either. So you got to have some liquidity standing by itself in an account that you know this is just for the rehab. This is just for my investments. I'm not touching this pot. I have other monies to take care of family, bills, emergency funds, stuff like that. If you're not setting your life up like that or your expectations up like that, you're failing yourself. Now, I'm not here to give you any life lessons because some of y'all are probably older than me and could give me a whole list of life lessons. But I'm just telling you through the last 8 years or 7+ years that I've been doing this, it is imperative that you take care of running your investment strategy like a business. Credit score. Take care of your credit score, especially if you're a buy and hold person. Listen, if you're getting into a deal just because you want to be an investor and call yourself an investor, that's great. But make sure that you don't have a bunch of credit cards that you're going to max out and then to do the rehab and buy supplies and pay your guys with, and at the end of the day, your credit score goes ticks down, and then you get to the end of it, and your credit was at 720, and now it's at 620 because you've maxed out all your credit cards and you can't qualify for long-term financing. Even a DSCR loan, and we can get into that a little bit later, a DSCR loan, you have to have a minimum credit score requirement. To hold properties long-term, you need credit. It's just a fact. And the ability to refinance, exit plan. A lot of investors are finding out through what has happened in the last 2 years. Anybody can tell me what's happened in the last 2 years? Interest rates, yes, have gone up, which has hurt a lot of people in the investment industry because they bought a property when rates were at 3%, and now they're sitting at 6-7%, and they're effectively not being able to sell those properties, so they have longer holding times. Things are not flying off the market like they were 2 years ago. And it's quick how it happened. I mean, it was boom, boom, boom. Anybody that bought any investment property early in January of last year would have said, hey, I'm going to be okay. But now they're like, oh, Lord, I'm still holding on to this thing. So you've got to have multiple exit strategies and be able to refinance a property. Things to look out for. Will you be able to refinance what the rehab's done? Do you have enough reserves to get through the deal? Do you have enough wiggle room if the market changes? We just talked about this. Wiggle room, meaning you have to buy these properties as deep as possible. Wiggle room, cash reserves, holding cost, all of these things come into play. Is your lender charging upfront fees before closing? Listen, there are predatory lenders out there. It's a fact. I have run into them. I have had them call me, want me to do deals with them. Any lender that wants you to deposit $3,000 or $4,000 in an account as the origination prior to them even looking at the deal, turn away and run. You're not getting your money back, period. It's not a good deal, okay? No matter what they promise you, no matter what interest rate they promise you, it's not a good deal. They are not there for your benefits. That is not how a lending company should work, and you should not do business with them, in my opinion. The only upfront fee you pay with jet lending or any lender should be only the appraisal, which is a third-party fee that has to come out of the buyer's pocket. Everybody follow me so far? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. Boy, y'all, the weather got all y'all gloomy. Come on, guys. Y'all should be excited. We're supposed to talk about numbers. We're supposed to back into these numbers, right? So, basic math, right? 70% of 310 is what? Y'all can pull out y'all's calculator. I mean, it's up here on the board. Huh? No. 70% of 300. 210. All right. We're backing into numbers. This is the 70% rule. But I'm going to teach you one even better, the 65% rule. Why? I'm going to teach you how to get 100% financing. 70%, you still got to bring your closing cost. If you add another 5% into it, then guess what? You've rolled in effectively all your closing costs. So, if you got a $300,000 ARV and you got a purchase price of $310,000, is that a good deal? Again, I'm going to say, if you got a $300,000 ARV and you got a purchase price of $210,000, is that a good deal? $210,000. I'm sorry, $210,000. Is that a good deal? That's a horrible deal. No, it's a horrible deal. Especially if your repairs are $40,000. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. It depends on the repairs. That's what I was trying to get at. So you've got to figure out what your realistic repair number is. In this scenario, we're going to use $40,000 because it's quick math, all right? You should be buying your property somewhere around $170,000. So it's real quick math, right? You take whatever the ARV is. Remember, the conservative ARV, based off the comps. You times it times 70%, you minus the repairs. But in this case, you're not going to use 70%. What are you going to use? 65%, and then back into your number. That gives you a 5% wiggle room, right? If I can get them down this low, and they counter 5% higher, hey, I'm out my closing costs, but I got a great deal. Or use the 60% rule to back into your number. Then you've got 10% wiggle room. This is how everybody should back into their number. They shouldn't automatically look at a $210,000 purchase price and say that's a great deal. Yes, it's a great deal if it's $5,000 or $10,000 in repairs that you can do out of your own pocket. That's a great deal. Buy it. Put a renter in it, by all means. It's a heck of a deal. But then you don't need a short-term loan unless you got to close quick. Then yes, you got to go back to the short-term loan, because hard money loan is a bridge loan for you to be able to get the property stabilized. That either means A, you got to close quick, stabilize it in your name, or you've got to do some repairs to be able to put a tenant in, or you've got to do a full-blown rehab. Now, we could talk about the levels of rehab versus ARV real quick. So some people have a strategy where they're like, hey, I'm not going to do a full-blown, especially renters, I'm not going to do a full-blown rehab on this thing. I'm going to make it rent-ready. I'm not making it nice and pretty. Well, then you're not going to look at your max ARV, are you? Because you're not making it look to 2024 standards and 2024 finishes. You're just putting rent-ready stuff in there that you can throw a tenant in there, what we call lipstick on a pig or lipstick on anything, and say, hey, here's your renter. And then you hold it 5-10 years. Then you do some more repairs, which is very, very feasible and a very good investment strategy. But you can't look at it at those numbers and say, well, my ARV is 300. You're probably going to look at a 250 to 260 number just doing rent ready. And you can find those comps too. That's what I said when we were talking about the comps that are at 60, and then you'll have a few at 120, 130. They're the ones that are probably got renters in them right now. They're not fully blown rehab, but they're nice and they're well kept, but they're not at the top of the market. Okay? Biggest valuable purchase price. Buy for $150. That's what I was telling you. If you buy it at $150, you got zero out of pocket. If you buy it at $180, you'll have $10,000 plus closing costs. That's the 60 and 65% rule how you back into this number. The closest you can get to that $170, and the better off you are. Now, you're not always going to get there. There's not always that much wiggle room in a deal or in a property. Sometimes the wholesaler's not going to go that low. But that's why you got to be wholesaling the property to yourself, meaning you're out there actively marketing to get these properties under contract and actively driving for dollars, actively out there as an investor. Man, I'll be honest with you, it takes work. It does. But anything in this life that's worth anything is going to take some hard work. And you got to take the time. If you're sitting here tonight, I would think everybody wants to take the time to do that. 2024, that's your year. I stand up in front of a class almost every January, and everybody tells me how many deals they want to do by the end of the year. I see them at the end of the year. I ask them how many deals they did. Well, I didn't get any done. What'd you do for 365 days? Did you sit on the sidelines, or do you want to get in the game? So let's get in the game this year. Bonus. Where does the train run off the tracks? We're gonna spend some time on this because I think it's very important. This is where jet lending kind of cuts our teeth at teaching our clients. Mismanagement of contractors. Guys, I hear war stories all the time about this. It is one of the biggest, number one thing that will hurt you is contractors. You need to vet them, vet them, vet them, vet them. Make sure that you have done or they have done work for other people, and you have more than one in your back pocket. Never, never, never pay any contractor a large sum of money up front. If they need money to buy materials, then you go buy the materials yourself. These are just tips. You don't have to use them. If you trust your contractor, then, write them a check. But at the end of the day, you're going to get burned at some point in time. Make sure you go to Home Depot, buy them, and then say, hey, Because they will go to Home Depot, they will go to Lowe's, and they will buy tools, and they will buy other things with your money, and at the end of the day, you'll never know the difference. And they'll have a new Milwaukee set sitting there for $1,000 and upcharged you, and you never even knew it. Pay attention to that, guys. It happens, I'm telling you. It does. Shady repairs. Make sure you go to your investment property if you have a general contractor working on it and look at it as the work progresses. Get an inspector to go out with you. Make friends with an inspector. Say, hey, I got this rehab going on, and I want to make sure that it's being done right. I want you to teach me as this one goes. Man, it might cost you a little bit out of your pocket for him to walk you through each stage of it and what to look for. But at the end of the day, you're educated. You don't have to use him every time. You'll know what to look for next time. Get you a mentor. How many people in here have a mentor? 3 hands. If y'all need a mentor, let me know. All right? I'm not going to be your mentor, but I know some good ones, okay? I have vetted them. They're good friends of mine. I will get you in touch with somebody. There's a guy that one of my best friends that we could talk one-on-one about, okay? Great guy. Investor runs out of cash. What happens when you run out of cash? Everything comes to a screeching halt, right? Life comes to a screeching halt. Can't buy groceries. The first thing you're going to do is pay your bills. You're not going to worry about that investment properties or multiple properties that you have going. So make sure, when I said you got a pool of cash over here, protect it. Life happens, right? You had to have a surgery. You forgot to renew your life insurance, your health insurance. Oh, Lord, I broke my leg. Now I got an emergency room bill for $10,000 because they gave me 2 aspirin. I mean, at the end of the day, that stuff happens. Plan to hold but can't get refinance done. We've already talked about that. Protect your credit score. Protect it like it's a little golden egg, and you don't want to break it, because especially in this environment, where we're at right now, hopefully the rates will start to come down. But in this environment, you've got to pay attention to that. It's very important. Tries to do everything themselves, work and marketing, does not hire a realtor. I'm not saying you need to hire a realtor, real estate agent, but I will tell you this. If you don't know how to hang drywall, don't hang drywall. Okay? If you don't know how to do plumbing, don't do plumbing. Hire a licensed plumber, especially if you're not a licensed plumber. You'll end up blowing the house up. Nobody wants to see a house blown up on the 10 o'clock news. Local investor blows his house up. He didn't get harmed, but he didn't listen to Rob Trigg. And the reason why you want to hire a real estate agent to sell your property is you don't want somebody, the right real estate agent. Let me say that, the right real estate agent. You got to make sure it's somebody that knows the area. And is familiar with the area and is a market pro in that area. You're not going to hire somebody from the Woodlands to go list a house in Galveston. They don't know the rules. They don't know the regulations on what you need as far as windstorm, the insurances that you got to cover. You need an expert in that market, and vice versa. You know, you're not going to hire a Galveston real estate agent to come show you houses in the Woodlands, even though they'll probably argue with me, oh, I can show a house in the Woodlands. You don't know the market. You don't even know where to go if you've never been up there. You know, it's just 2 different markets. ARV ends up being lower than anticipated. Can't sell at expected prices. What do I mean about this? You have a market change, right? The market plummets. Interest rates go up. Things are flying off the market at $500,000 now. They've cooled a little bit. And they're probably selling at $470,000, $480,000, or even lower than that to make it competitive. The market cooling is what they wanted to happen. Things to slow down. I don't know who they are, but one day somebody's going to tell me who they are. But they wanted it to happen, so it happened. Cost overruns, repairs, vandalism, theft, longer than expected holding times. Vandalism, that's a big thing. It's been on the news. It's been on the news. There was a few months back, there was a guy that was a local real estate investor, and they were stealing all of his appliances. And he caught them on the Ring camera and set up a trap, and they came back. I guess they caught him, but it does happen. So make sure you're protecting your investment property, because that right there, coming in and stealing all your appliances, man, that's another $3,000 depending on what style of house it is. It could be up to $20,000. Some of these rehabs, kitchens alone are $20,000 in appliances. Contractors' liens. Guys, don't piss off your contractors, okay? They put a lien on your property, it's just going to cause you more headache. And they're going to win, okay? Because unless you've got sufficient evidence. So document, document, document. Every single thing that you pay out, every single thing that they have done, make sure you get a written receipt. And make sure you get a release of lien affidavit signed once they have completed work. Make sure, all right? Events without proper insurance. Yes, events without proper fire or insurance. Make sure you get your insurance covered and make sure it stays on that property. This is my contact information. That's my direct number. Like I said, we're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Try to do a little bit of funny stuff everywhere.